fighting titans.
Hello everyone and welcome back to a special presentation of Anime Club After Dark. I have with me tonight our Chivalry of Shota's Shotaro.
Wheezy F.
And tonight we are going to be talking about episode 9 of Vinland Saga. This will probably be a pretty short episode review because not a whole lot of things happen in this episode. A lot of this episode just revolved around a fight between two characters. So I guess we can talk about that. So this episode begins basically with ACAD and his troop. Actually, it kind of begins before that with Floki coming up to Thorkel on London Bridge, who is fighting for the English. And Floki brings him I guess you could say God, what's the word I'm looking for? A message. Let's just say a message. There's actually another word I was looking for, but I can't think of it. A message from King Swim. It's like, hey, you could fight for us, and we'll pay you more. Torkel's like, fuck that, I just want to kill people.
LOL.
So he starts attacking Floki. Floki goes back and tells Sven this, and he's like, oh shit, okay. But in the meantime, when that happens, you see ACAD's troop also attack the bridge to see if they can take it by themselves. And ACAD tells Thorfinn, hey, bring me Thorkel's head for me, why don't you? And then that's what the rest of the episode basically is about.
I like how ACAD's strategy was to fling Thorfinn like a catapult fodder.
Exactly.
At the gate.
I thought that was kind of funny too. And it's like, hey, distract this person while we do some shit.
Children are the new cannonball.
Yeah, they're certainly the new cannon fodder. So since so much of this episode revolves around that battle between Thorfinn and Thorkel, I figured it's probably a good idea to analyze it. First of all, do you agree with me that this was actually a pretty well choreographed fight?
I loved it. Great choreography. I sound like I'm dead, but I actually did love it. I especially enjoyed the fight opened with like a 360-degree camera swing, which I'm like, yes, give me not dementia. What's that thing? It starts with
Vertigo.
a D. Oh, sure. That is the correct word. It does not start with a D.
No.
Give me vertigo. I am enjoying the vertigo from those camera swings.
We mentioned it in a previous episode that we reviewed that, Studio Wit, very Attack on Titan like. They love to swing that camera around.
Yes, and it works really well for action fights.
Also, I would say even though this wasn't in slow motion, the actual spinning around of the camera did remind me a little bit of that shot you see in The Matrix the first time where, the time slows down and it just goes into 360. It's like that's kind of what it reminded me of, minus the whole slow motion thing.
It just really gets you hype and really ups the tension. Give me that adrenaline shot.
It's certainly the money shot when it comes to action. So yeah, Studio Wit certainly playing to their strengths with that, I think. They'd certainly have it down by this point, I would say. But the fight itself was pretty action-packed. Of course, you have this has happened so many times in this show now, where there'll be a huge group of guys surrounding Thorfinn, but then there's this one guy which he's really after. Is like, wait, everyone stand down. I'll take care of this.
Wait, what is the other situation where that happened?
Well, there's been twice now where he's dueled with ACAD, where everyone around him could have taken the shot at Thorfinn and they didn't.
Yeah, true.
And it's just because
the
person in the person in charge is like, hold on, I'll take care of this. Don't you worry.
But you see, that's it's actually in character for Thorkel to do that.
It is. It's certainly a very honorable way to do it.
I think he does it less for honor for Thorkel's or for Thorkel in particular, it's less about honor and it's more about I want to get this kill by myself.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth pointing out that Thorkel has what could only be described as bloodlust. 'Cause I really can't think of any other way to describe that. He seemingly lives to fight, which is something that's, I don't know exactly how historically true that is. I'm sure there were certainly Vikings that did that a lot, but it's sort of like the like Hollywood cliche of Viking. That's like they're always ready to go fight and they're out for blood all the time. Like that's what Thorkel embodies to me.
Is it a cliche?
Trope may be a better word than cliche.
Isn't it accurate? Wasn't that the fighting style of the Vikings?
Like I say, I don't know exactly how true it was for all Vikings, but it's certainly what's portrayed in a lot of history books and a lot of like Hollywood representations of Vikings.
Sure.
I don't know. It's just like Thorkel is like what when you say Viking, Thorkel is kind of what I expect a Viking to be like, I guess.
I think Thorkel is a bit more in his head than what I would expect a Viking to be like. I expect a Viking to be like Bjorn on the mushrooms, where he's like slamming his head into the post, and then he sees you, and then he rushes you. Thorkel likes to play with his food before mutilating it.
That's actually a pretty good way to put it now that you mention it. I definitely think there's a certain amount of bloodlust in him. He certainly loves, as you say, playing with his prey. And that's certainly what he does with Thorfinn when they fight. I also loved in this fight how Thorfinn tries to use strategy against him, and it does seem to work. He ends up like cutting across his hand, and Thorkel looks at it and goes like, "Oh, all right, so you can hit me." And then Thorfinn's like analyzing him, and it's like all of his weak points are too high for me to reach. I'm gonna have to bring him down to my level. I know what I'll do. I'll fucking slide under him and kick him in the knee.
Speaking of Attack on Titan, I didn't know we were getting a remake of the fight against a colossal titan.
Well, I would say scaled down slightly though.
But it was so similar to like fighting titans. It's like you have to aim for the weak points, you have to cut open the tendons, then you have to make the titan fall. He literally fell on the ground. Like he couldn't attack him until he fell on the ground. It was like a little too similar to fighting titans. But it was also, if you haven't seen Attack on Titan before that, it still came off as pretty tactical on Thorfinn's part.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it obviously worked because it got him down to his level, and that there's a lot of like truth to that. I would say to any like fighting any person is you got to hit their weak spots. You can't just go at them where they're the strongest. Like if you're going up against someone who has a lot of upper body strength but is weak in lower body strength, you would attack them in their lower body because that's where they can defend you the least.
Well, I think he was just going for like the specific tendons, not like where he's weak or not.
Maybe, but you have to admit there's a huge height disparity between the two people fighting.
I mean, yes, but it's like so much of a disparity, it's almost borderline comical.
It is, and I was going to ask you about that. So in one of the previous episodes, we talked about how comically deformed one of the characters who is supposed to be portrayed as a villain is. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering what you thought of how Thorkel is drawn and stuff, where he just literally towers over everyone, and he has this sort of superhuman strength to pick up enormous boulders and giant logs and just hurl them insane distances.
So I can suspend my disbelief for Thorkel because I feel like it's somewhere near the realm of possibility where like the Vikings are built stronger than the Englishmen. So there could be a Viking that's like a powerhouse physically and is super tall and super strong. I feel like that's like somewhat near the realm of possibility. and it served a purpose in the story, and it kind of like ties into the genetics of the Vikings. Whereas like with the French person, there's really no reason to do that.
I mean, yeah, fair enough. I think obviously you have to think that his strength is a little bit exaggerated for, it is anime, obviously, but it's more believable than the deformed French general. I'll give you that. You have to suspend disbelief a lot less, I would say.
I feel like Thorkel is expanding on like a part of history in the way that like, genetics, whereas they're deforming the Frenchman for like plot reasons. So I'm more lenient towards the Thorkel version of suspending disbelief.
Yeah. I'd say that's a fair assessment, though. I kind of feel the same way. So this fight ends up, getting wrapped up by Thorfinn does land a blow on his hand. Oh, well, I guess I should say to get this blow, he plays dead. He actually lets himself get captured by Thorkel, and Thorkel's like throwing him around on top of this little bridge fort thing and just beating the absolute shit out of him. In fact, after the fight is over, Thorfinn's like, "Oh God, I got like broken ribs and a sprained ankle and my dislocated shoulder." So he's legitimately getting hurt, and then he gets to the point where he's essentially just playing dead in Thorkel's hands, and Thorkel kind of lowers his guard a little bit, and that's when Thorfinn springs into action by impaling one of his hands and then cutting off two of his fingers, which was awesome.
So, I mean, I saw this coming that he was playing dead because he was still holding the dagger when
he was still gripping the dagger pretty tightly.
So that's, a giveaway for the viewers. So, I don't know if they should have like portrayed that differently, but
maybe just
it was a
pretty
cool move.
Maybe just not shown that the dagger in his hand at all, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can say that, but it was cool. The way he did it was like really cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
I just love the fact that Thorkel just looking at his fingers just flying off like, oh, okay. Like the amount of bloodlust he has completely prevents him from giving a shit about the severity of his injuries.
Honey, they're just battle scars you can brag about to your grandchildren.
Maybe I would
do you remember in like back in Iceland where there was one guy without a leg and he was like, "You cut off my leg." And they're just like going about their day. That's you cut off my finger. See, that's a sign of friendship and a lifetime bond between the two.
If I will give that all to you and say I will just leave that at that. I thought it was funny because immediately after this, Thorfinn just jumps in the water and just gets the fuck out. And Thorkel's like, wait, come back. I wanted to finish this with you. And then he throws his hand up, it's like he's waving at him goodbye, and then you just see the two fucking cut off finger stubs. And it's like it's sort of funny, but in a really weird kind of funny way. It's not like laughing, like laugh out loud funny. It's like, honey, you gotta get with it.
He's just a crazy.
He is. I mean, if the goal is to portray him as a madman, they're doing it very well because he seems the way he's portrayed seems like he's very unstable.
I want to say unstable.
He could do anything at any time.
Maybe like sociopathic.
Yeah, maybe. But anyway, that's. I mean, the only other thing that really happens in this is after Floki goes back and informs Svein of what happened. Svein sends his son Canute to go lead an army and siege London, and then we find, like, as in a previous episode, Ragnar, the guy who's assigned to be Canute's assistant, doesn't think that Canute is ready for this task. He doesn't think that he's ready to lead an army. Doesn't think that he's got enough experience to do what he's being asked to do. I also find it funny that we haven't heard Canute speak at all yet.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen Canute, and we've seen like glimpses of him, and we've been told that he's supposed to be like this up and coming dude, but we have yet to hear a voice. I'm really hoping, I'm seriously hoping actually that they don't actually have Canute voiced by a woman,
I was
despite
about to
how
say,
feminine he appears.
I was about to say, we haven't seen his face and we haven't heard his voice because he is a woman. He is Mulan.
Yeah, this is I'm seriously hoping this is gonna turn into Fate, where it turns out that Canute's just a fucking loli,
What?
just for reasons. I don't know. The Fate series turns every male historical figure into a loli for some reason.
Okay.
Or it's just a woman. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much all that happens. We see the camp being set up across from where London Bridge is, like too far out of Thorkel's range to, or at least we're led to believe, too far out of Thorkel's range to attack. And he's like, "Oh man, I wanted to fight."
I also didn't notice until now, but Canute is wearing a Valkyrie helmet.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and no one else is wearing that kind of helmet. So, like, a normal Viking helmet would have, like, horns at the sides, but his has wings, and Valkyries are female.
Yes.
So that's another reason why he is Mulan.
Well, we shall see. I will say the show has been, the anime so far has been pretty good at portraying historical figures for more or less how they actually were, creative license notwithstanding. Like Thorkel was a real person. I doubt he was as tall and as strong as he is portrayed in the anime, but he was a real person who was known for being very tall for the time. So,
Yeah, speaking of Thorkel, a thought this episode brought up that made me think was that, can one man decide a battle considering the time period?
I think that the answer to that question is yes. A single man can decide the outcome of a battle.
You think so?
For that time period, I'm not sure.
Wait, what do you mean? In this time period, a single man cannot decide a battle.
I don't know. I think a good leader can decide the fate of an army for sure.
That's not what I meant.
I don't know. I think that's more of a philosophical question. I mean, if you look through a lot of famous battles in history, you can ask yourself, well, if you'd taken one of the leaders on one side of this battle out of the equation, how would things have gone differently?
I meant like physically, not mentally.
Oh, you mean like actually? Okay, like not necessarily strategy-wise, but
No.
I don't know.
Because Thorkel seems to be the one man that is deciding this battle. Physically, not mentally.
No, well, it's certainly in the fight between Thorfinn and Thorkel, yes. But in the other like skirmishes that we see, like in the very beginning with Floki and the other Danish soldiers that stormed the bridge, you see Thorkel and his men fighting against them to drive them away. So
Yeah, but
I guess
Thorkel
you
is
can't really
the
say
one-
that a single man did that.
Yeah, Thorkel is the one. You can block the arrows. You can't block the logs that Thorkel is throwing, and no one would be able to throw logs except Thorkel. So if Thorkel wasn't there, they would have taken that bridge.
Yeah, you're probably right. Okay, so here's my thought about that. Can a single man decide a battle? Yes, in fiction, always.
No, but that's not what I meant in fiction. I meant in real life, in this time period.
Maybe? I don't know.
You
I
don't
didn't
know?
live in the time period, so I can't.
You're like, I ain't about that life.
I don't know. It's a good question to ask, though. It's a really good question to ask, I think. I think physically, maybe. I think strategy-wise, yes, a single man can
Well,
decide the outcome of
obviously.
battle. But yes, I don't know. The physically is a different question though, and I think it's a good question to ask.
Yeah, I can't say for sure because I've never actually participated in a military battle, especially limited to weapons of this time period. But from what I can tell, I'm leaning towards maybe yes, a single man can, considering how limited the weapons are with this time period. I find that maybe somewhat believable.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I think so too. That's pretty much it though. That's all that happens in this episode. So I can't think of anything else worth talking about in this episode. It was a good fight between Thorfinn and Thorkel. Also, I'd like to point out there's too many people in this story that have names that start with Thor. I'm really surprised in the course of recording this episode I haven't mixed up Thorfinn and Thorkel. Probably because all of it's written down here for me.
I already have.
But yeah, if we could stop having people with Thor in their name, that'd be great. Other than that, thank you all there for dropping in to listen to us. We hope you enjoyed it because we always enjoy bringing this stuff to you. If you want to check out previous episodes of the podcast, you can find us on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, and Spotify. If you want to keep up with what we're doing, you can join us on Discord, Facebook, Twitter, and our website. Shoot us an email if you have any questions or if you have ideas for topics you would like for us to talk about in the future. Links to all these things will be down below in the description. As always, I have been your host, Alex, and I will see you next time. Second Night Show.
Voulez-vous coucher avec moi ce soir?
I'm not even going to pretend to know what you said, but
Moulin
I know it's
Rouge?
from Moulin Rouge. I mean, I don't really know. It's something about will you go to bed with me tonight, but
Wait, you actually
That's
don't know what that line means in English?
I mean, it has something to do with going to bed, but that's all I know.
What does the Moulin Rouge have to do with Mulan? That's a real question.
On that note, good night.